The lore of the Intruder deepens as we enter further into the game's story. What began with Jason's disappearance and Henry's tragic loss now spirals into the final descent leading to the true end. This is the story of Roblox's The Intruder, Part 2. Warning, any speculation or theories made in this video aren't meant to be regarded as absolutely true or false. Do not try to use what is stated in this video as absolute evidence to prove any given theories about the characters, the story, etc. Please understand that this video will try to be the most up-to-date explanation of the Intruder story. Please also understand that not everyone has the same beliefs and may disagree here and there, so don't hate on them for not agreeing. Thank you for listening to this message. Go grab some snacks and drinks and enjoy this video. God bless my people. The time period set for the Intruder is still unknown as of now. However, with the release of Chapter 9, we can revise the range of time said previously. If Jason's disappearance occurred in March 2009 and the accident that killed Sarah and Henry's baby occurred after, we can infer that the time period was between 2009 to the mid-2010s. Jesse's footage of Satan's Lodge also feeds into this theory, since he was there recording a video for his channel in October 2012. Now let's go ahead and delve back into the story of the Intruder. A mental patient wakes up inside of a mental hospital in their padded cell. They open their door only to see that they are the only person there. They look around and find illustrations of the Intruder and other stuff relating to his victims, with one padded cell having red illustrations relating to him. These illustrations were most likely done by Henry, because in the latest chapter he ends up in the same padded room and mentions that he has been there before. Anyway, the protagonist goes to find 2 keys and unlock some doors into an employees only room. They find a wrench to fix a generator to power up the elevator. They end up a couple floors up and into a small office. In this office, they read a manual about the security job and pull the lever to give other generators time to power up. The Intruder, Unhinged, and Vent Dweller try to kill the protagonist in the office until the other generators get powered up and the protagonist leaves the room. After the other generators are finished rebooting, the player runs down a hallway which leads to a dead end. The Intruder catches up, but they're saved by a random person. This person turns out to be Henry, because in Chapter 9, it is revealed that the Intruder says Henry hurt his feelings by shooting him. The last time we saw the Intruder being shot was in his appearance in the mental hospital, so it would automatically make sense for Henry to be the one that shot him. Our main protagonist then gets an elevator button with a note, presumably left by Henry. The protagonist then heads down into the basement, only to see an iron door obstructing their path. A friendly Intruder then shows up and presses the red button which opens the door, allowing the protagonist to escape. A vlogger named Jesse was recording a new video for his channel, Jesse Explores. The subject of this video is Satan's Lodge, a location resembling a cabin in the middle of the woods. Jesse enters the house and explores a bit before setting up cameras and spirit boxes around the house. Jesse then goes upstairs to open the door of the bedroom. Jesse then goes downstairs to pick up a strangely placed note on a mattress. After this, Jesse goes back upstairs and a painting falls from a wall, revealing a key. This key goes to the locked basement door near the entrance of the lodge. After entering the basement, Jesse walks into a room with wooden planks covering a hole. Jesse ends up finding a room with a crowbar, but he is then chased by the Rot, an intruder resembling a black skeleton with black smoke emitting from it. After closing the basement door on the Rot, he heads back inside and breaks the wooden planks using the crowbar. Now here's where the story has its first instance of multiple endings. The bad ending results in Jesse's death, but the good ending has him escape. For the sake of the story, we'll assume he survived. Anyway, Jesse walks down a corridor before being jump scared by the Rot. He ends up somewhere else and has to build a ladder to escape. During this, he evades the Rot multiple times and ends up escaping. A man named Mr. Doe was sent by Henry to go investigate the basement of a hotel that Henry is staying at. Henry offers him high pay to do it, and so Mr. Doe books a night with the receptionist at the front desk. He then places a hacking tool on the basement door. Mr. Doe then goes to his hotel room and turns on the TV to find the code for the basement. He then survives for around 7 minutes and 30 seconds from 4 entities attacking him: the static, the monster under the bed, the skeleton in the closet, and most prominently, the Shenyan. Once this was over, an unknown benevolent entity speaks and gives Mr. Doe a gun. He goes down to the basement and ends up in a room, but is then told to leave. He refuses to leave, and the unknown speaker summons the Shenyan to kill Mr. Doe. However, he kills the demon before it could kill him, and then he begins to progress further. Mr. Doe goes through several rooms, killing all of the demons in his path. He eventually ends up in a room where the entity who provided him a gun tells him that her master is in the next room. She tells Mr. Doe how to escape and wishes him the best of luck. Mr. Doe goes in and talks to Sarah. Sarah monologues about how she met with the devil and why she wants Henry dead. She then states that she has said a lot and attempts to kill Mr. Doe. However, her gun has no bullets and Mr. Doe makes a run for it, with Sarah sending an intruder to kill him. He reaches an elevator and finally escapes after pushing a boulder aside. In the very end of the chapter, he calls Henry and tells him he got the information and also to meet up at the diner. Inside a subway security area, the main protagonist gets a call from a woman. The woman says the following dialogue.
Hey, I don't know who's on shit tonight, but you have to follow my instructions. My brother warned me saying that his wife is trying to kill us. She must think I'm in a security room because I saw something trying to break in. I called the authorities, but they put me on hold. You need to try to avoid whatever that thing was because it looked dangerous. I'll call you back when they're ready to take my request, okay?
From these lines, it can be inferred that Henry's sister is the one that's calling us. We then have to survive 2 entities, the caller and the screamer. We survive and are eventually escorted to safety with the whereabouts of both entities unknown. Before we move on to the true end, I would like to discuss some theories. My first theory is that we play as Mr. Doe. This is because Mr. Doe was somewhat of an important character because he got information for Henry. Also, going back to my previous theory from the previous video, it's likely that Sarah sent the caller and screamer to go kill Mr. Doe. This was likely because he knew of the existence of Sarah and the shapeshifters. The most likely reason why Sarah is trying to silence the people that know about her and her minions is because she doesn't want them spreading news which could lead to consequences for her and her minions. Henry has an opening dialogue where he says he knows everything and is going to visit Sarah. He goes to a diner where Mr. Doe is already sitting at a table. They talk and Henry gives a large sum of money for Mr. Doe to give him the location of the hotel through a slip. They talk some more until eventually Henry leaves with Mr. Doe wishing him good luck. Henry goes to the now abandoned hotel and down into its basement. He sneaks past some watchers and goes into a massive room with marbled flooring and red carpets. He boards a train on the other side and goes through a conspicuously placed door. This door leads to the location of the end from several chapters ago. He finds several keys going to several doors and eventually ends up in a room with a boy slouching in one of the corners. This ends up being a massive plot twist as this boy is Jason, the same boy who went missing in 2009, and Jason calls Henry his dad, revealing that Jason was Henry's son. Henry doesn't believe that this is real and tells himself that. Jason then has one hell of a crash out and slowly pursues Henry in the corridor connecting the original room with Jason's room. Henry ends up back in the original room, closing the door on Jason, and uses a key from a chest to unlock a door that leads to a room with several doors and a telephone sitting in the middle of the room. The telephone rings and Henry picks up, only to realize that it's our boy the Intruder! The Intruder and Henry go back and forth until Jason knocks Henry into another room. Henry finds a key and unlocks a door, which leads to a room with a big hole. Jason then pushes Henry down there. Henry ends up in the mental hospital scene in Chapter 5 and says the following line.
No, not this place again. I can't stand this. Why is Sarah doing this to me?
This basically tells us that the room with the red illustrations from earlier was done by Henry, and that Henry ended up in the mental hospital likely because he kept talking about the intruder and was believed to be insane. He eventually goes down to the first floor, killing some intruders, with one of them being the vent dweller. Rest in peace. He then ends up in a boss fight with an undead version of himself. Once this boss fight is over, the Henry corpse is about to bash the real Henry's head in when a train comes and runs him over. Henry avoids the oncoming trains and ends up in a somewhat accurate replica of his room, with it being messier and having more satanic themes. He then has to survive a new intruder known as the Thing, similar to how he survived the original intruder back in his house. He eventually collects 5 special stones and ends up in a room with the intruder. Both of them talk with each other for a bit before Henry decides to end things with his gun. However, to Henry's surprise, his gun has no bullets and the intruder gets ready to kill him. The intruder almost kills him until Sarah shows up and kills the intruder by impaling him in the mouth. Rest in peace. Both Sarah and Henry eventually go into what seems to be a dining room. They talk about their history and eventually their argument ends with them being inside of a massive room that ends up being a boss fight. Henry has to go through 3 stages in order to defeat Sarah. Eventually, Sarah gets overpowered by Henry and she just wants him to kill her since Osmodeus didn't show up and kill Henry. Now this is where the lore has 4 different endings to end the story of the intruder. However, 3 of those endings have something bad happen to Henry. The first ending shows him dying, the second ending has him locked up for life, and the third ending has him potentially going insane. However, the 4th ending shows Henry having somewhat of a good ending. For the sake of sympathy, we'll assume the 4th ending is the true ending of the story. Henry ends up sparing Sarah, he meets Osmodeus and rejects his deal and runs away. In the 4th ending, it's revealed he moved away from his original town, he has new friends, and is considering to get a drink with them on that day. And my friends, this is the official end of The Intruder. Also, before anyone brings up the Intruder continuity, I'm going to say that the original story has its original story, and that the Intruder continuity has its own timeline. But for now, the story of the Intruder has ended.